Some of you know me, some of you don't. As Andy said, I manage a team of quarry inspectors throughout GB. We're responsible for regulating the legislation as it applies to quarrying, including the open cast coal. I've tried to tailor what I talk about today as much as possible around general themes, which I would imagine that the majority of people here are from the quarry industry or associated with it. But I think the messages of it, I hope, will strike a chord regardless of what industry you're involved in. I was slightly optimistic, expecting me to be able to. There we go. Right. If I can just talk about what I see as the challenges to begin with, but the problem and the challenges that we face. These are the statistics for the quarry industry going back to around about the year 2000. So fairly representative. What we can see, obviously, is the dramatic reduction in accident numbers that we have seen. These are not frequency rates; these are numbers of RIDDOR reported, and because of the sort of the crude systems that, or relatively crude, that HSE operates, we can only really go on accidents reported to us. So, I mean, what is clear from that is the long way that the industry has come. There are a few buts, as you would expect. And if you look at the trend from about 2008 onwards, you see that we've actually achieved a flat line. And it's what we do about that, really, that I would like to talk about today, because that has to be a concern to all of us. If you bear in mind that every point on that graph, every one of those hundreds, averaging around about 100 there for the last few years, every one of those is someone we know who possibly has suffered a life-changing injury. We've probably been for a drink with them. We probably know their families. We know their kids' names. We work with them. They're not just points on a graph. They are the people that we go and work with every day. So every one of those is important. And unfortunately, in my work, I get to speak to a lot of people who represent those points on the graph, and you just see how much their life has changed as a result of some of these accidents. The other point to bear in mind, and I will cover it later, is that doesn't represent ill health. And ill health is really an issue that we need to lock onto and do something about, because behind those figures is an even bigger picture in terms of people who are suffering ill health. It's probably even worse than that, actually, because around about 2012, RIDDOR changed from 3-day to 7-day reporting. So, the numbers are, you can't allow for that, you can't make an adjustment for that. So the numbers are certainly worse than they appear there. Don't forget also that 2008, 2009, up to 2010-11, the industry went through a huge decline. As much as 30% of the capacity was taken out of the industry, so a lot of people went with that. So those figures are against a background of reduced capacity. A lot of people left the industry, and that's a concern too, because many of the people who left were more than likely the people who were responsible for that steep decline in the early years from 2000. And I hate to say it, looking around, we're not getting any younger, are we? So we've got to look to the younger generation to continue that decline, because many of the people who brought about that decline, as I say, are no longer in the industry, and that has to be a concern for us. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. We've got to recognise what we've achieved, and it has achieved it. I mean, it's so different from what I remember. of the industry. A, when I worked in it, and B, since I joined HSE. But there's that plateau that we need to do something about. Very quickly show you that. The only point I would make on that is that in 14 and 15, we did have this fatality-free year, which is a huge achievement. Sadly, that has not been continued. We have had a fatal accident in a quarry this year. But if you take it as numbers employed, you're 11 times more likely to die in or be killed in a quarry than you are in all industry taken together. And we think of construction as being a high-risk industry. Quarrying, applied as a rate, numbers employed, quarrying is you're twice as likely to be killed in a quarry as on a construction site, which is pretty shocking figures, really. So that's the only point I'd like to make on that, except to say that when you have an accident in a quarry, it appears to me, based on the numbers of majors weighed against the total number of riddors, which includes the miners, the chances are it's going to be a serious accident. It's heavy kit, that's maybe not a surprise. That's our strategy. HSE's strategy, it's actually due for a refresh. It was our strategy from 2010 to 2015. There's just three elements that I'd like to pick up from that, because I think this is where the answer lies to that tailing off in the improvement rate. Strong leadership, building competence, and involving the workforce. Now, I wasn't here yesterday, but I've already picked up that those were some of the messages that were given out yesterday, and I know from some of the other slides I've seen on here that that's going to be the theme today. So I'm not alone in that thinking. This is where we need to focus our efforts. There is nothing new in health and safety, let me tell you. We don't need more and more complex systems to manage health and safety. Innovation, I'm not sure there's a great deal of innovation in terms of what is causing the accident. I mean, let's face it, gravity never fails, does it? That's one constant in the universe, and yet, slips, trips and falls from height, they continue. So innovation is not going to help us there. I think it comes back to these basic three building blocks and getting those right. That's my opinion. You can contradict me if you wish, and I'm more than I'm up for the challenge. Let me tell you, I'm here for the majority of the day. I'm up for that challenge. I'd like to talk a bit later about what is coming in terms of the new refreshed and relaunched strategy, which is an increased focus on strategic partnerships and an increased focus on health. But for now, if I can deal with that, just as you would expect, the HSE strategy is then mirrored into the quarries sector strategy, which I'm responsible for writing, which is available on the intranet, I believe. So those key themes are continued through into that. The avoiding catastrophe at the bottom there is simply that we have to recognise that as an industry, we manage some pretty significant risks in terms of the amount of explosives that is used in quarries, and the tips and stability issues that we're responsible for managing. If we're going to have a Bosley Mill, the wood mill in Cheshire that caught fire, or an Alton Towers, it's going to be one of those issues, and it's really going to grab the headlines. So we can never take our sight off those, and that is why it's in there. They're sort of high hazard, low probability, but they are the headline grabbers. So leadership. I hope you would agree with that. And I think it's that bit at the bottom, isn't it? It's the way we do business around here that we're all trying to aim for. But a leader can be anyone. It's not it doesn't have to be the manager of the quarry. Leadership exists at every level. If they satisfy those criteria, then they are leaders, and we've got to recognise them, and as an industry, nurture them, and give them the opportunities that they need to drive cultural change. I mean, for example, who's delivering our toolbox talks? Is it a foreman because they're the foreman, or is it someone who's got a real flair for that, and that people will listen to and take something from it? And if it is, then we ought to be devolving more authority to them to lead the industry, because everyone has got to be a leader in some sense. Just add a bit of caution to that. Think of the jam in the sandwich. Within any workforce, you will have, say, 10% who are highly motivated, are right behind you, and you can rely on. There's sort of a floating 60% that can be led and can be developed. There's the 10% that you can do nothing with, and that the numbers will vary, but every workforce will be made up of those. I think it's that 60% or whatever it is in the middle that we need to be aiming at and leading them, because they can go either way, can't they? But we want to bring them on with us. If I can say something contentious now, I actually think the problem with leadership lies with middle management and frontline supervisors. I am convinced that the board of the company, by and large, are committed to health and safety. Now, you may disagree with that, but I think one of the problems that this industry and many other industries like it suffer from is this can-do mentality. It can be done, and it can be done at any cost. And that is the attitude on the ground. The focus is very much on, we've got a problem, we've got to sort the problem, we can do this. I don't actually think that what gets reported back to the board is the lost afternoon of production on the asphalt plant. I don't believe that's what, in a major, I don't think that's even a decimal point on the bottom line. I think what gets reported back is that at so-and-so location there was a lost time injury. And I know it does. And so that tells me that the lost production, if there is any, I don't believe there is, personally, that is done from rushing in with can-do. I don't think is a feature of this. I think it is about standing back from it and doing the job properly. And doing the job properly involves a measure of risk assessment and consideration of health and safety. That 20 minutes spent in planning a job, you know what they say about planning and etc., is so essential. I think that's where it gets missed a bit. And perhaps if we could, instead of saying we can do this, if we could say we can do this, and what's more, we can do this safely. I think that is the attitude that we need to adopt. I recall investigating an incident on a steelworks that resulted in quite a serious incident. And to give me an idea of what had led up to it, I read all the shift reports for the previous week. The the team leaders at the end of the shift produced a report, and they listed what had happened. Well, there was one in particular, one team leader, who's quite a young chap, and his shift reports, they read like the damage reports to the bridge of the Bismarck, because this was how, it's heavy industry. They're running a blast furnace. They're not making shoes or jam tarts. This was how it was. But amongst this, he signed off every report with routinely problematic, and that's how he saw it. He didn't see this was nothing exceptional, because I questioned him about it, and he said, "That's how it is. We can't all work in an office. This is how it is. It's routinely problematical." And I thought it was a good way of thinking about it, actually, because he didn't go into work expecting everything to go smoothly. He went into work expecting he would face problems, and what's more, he would face those problems and he would have to deal with them safely. He'd have to deal with the problem, yes, but health and safety was a priority for him, and that formed part of his thinking, his planning. That's the sort of mentality I think we need to achieve. It's like the police must hear people saying, "I didn't expect that red light to change." Really? That's what they do, isn't it? So that's, when we go into work, I think that is the view that we need to go into. Things will happen, things will go wrong, step back from it, deal with it, and deal with it in a safe manner. We're not all natural leaders. We never can be. However, the help is at hand. HSE has produced its own guidance there that you can go to as a source of information, and that will give you some starters. Quinjack also is, you'll hear a lot more about Quinjack later, but just to mention it now, that there is guidance on there on leadership. There's an excellent self-assessment that you can do, which was produced by, actually, from another industry, but is equally relevant as a starting point of, where am I on the leadership scale? What do I need to do to improve? I'd recommend that to you. So, building competence. Again, I think this is, no one would disagree that without a competent workforce, we really don't stand a chance of improving that tail off on the graph and making these places a place that we all want to work in and would want our families to work in. It is a question of proportionate risk management. The COSH assessments you see on TIPEX are actually an example of incompetence. So for the purpose of this, just ignore the trivial. The best approach is to map the competence of everyone who works for you, reports to you, and identify the gaps, and then fill those gaps. And in filling those gaps, I don't think that it's necessarily about finding courses for people to go on. I think that there are a number of sources for excellent toolbox talks. SafeQuarry.com is a good source. Quinjack is a good source. It's how you get those across then, and I think that we ought to make more use of pre-shift briefings, for example, because that gives a powerful message that if we're prepared to take time out of the day to give a 10-minute message of that day and do it once a month, I think there's a powerful message there, and it's increasing competence. We're fortunate as an industry also that I think we do have one of the best suite of courses available to any industry from what I've seen. I'm talking about MPQC and the courses that are there and other course providers. I think as an industry we couldn't want for more. But without that competence, we stand very little hope, I think. Again, I think that statement speaks for itself. Wouldn't it be a fantastic situation if the workforce managed health and safety for us? I think it's achievable, but I don't think as an industry we're particularly good at it. And we need, perhaps this is one area where we need to innovate and think about what we're doing, because the traditional approach has been health and safety committees. And they work to a point, except that many people, I think, find that they're sort of co-opting people onto health and safety committees because there's no willingness to do it. Well, involving the workforce doesn't have to be a health and safety committee. Involving the workforce can be simply going out, making time in your diary to go out and actually stop someone on the job and say, look, stop, we're going to walk this job, or you're going to show me around your machine, and we're going to talk about health and safety while we do it. Because that will get back to that jam in your sandwich, if you like. That do you know what he did? We walked and listened to me. The other key thing about that is that you do something about it, of course. And even if that is, well, that's a good idea, but I don't see it working. I don't see it working for these reasons. That's feedback, but that's useful feedback. Just saying, just doing nothing is not an option. One of the great successes that came out of the London 2012 Olympics was they simply put a board up and it said, "You said, we did," and that was their way of giving feedback on these matters. So I think consider how you involve the workforce. If it is a sterile health and safety committee that you call every 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is, on a rainy day or when the plant is broken down, is that really involving the workforce? I mean, you've put a lot of money into training them. They are the experts. They do the job day in, day out. I think we must look at innovative ways to capture them and use what they know. And there's talent out there, there's no question about it, that we need to tap into as an industry. Just to go back to this for a moment, I said that the new strategy that HSE is launching is going to look at strategic partnerships and increase emphasis on health. We are extremely fortunate in the quarry industry that we do already have a strategic partnership, which is representative of the entire industry, whether that is individual companies, trade associations, professional bodies, or the education establishments. That already exists. You'll hear a lot more about it today, so I don't want to dwell on that. But it does need your support. It needs your help. It's setting out to produce industry guidance by industry for industry, using industry recognised experts, and a number of them are in the room today. But it needs support, and at the moment, I feel it sadly lacks representative from the actual workers from the quarry. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed, but only you can address that. I can't co-opt people onto it, but I do believe that there's development opportunities there for employees of yours on Quinjack. I'm not going to say any more about Quinjack now because that will come later. The other aspect of the strategy there was health. These are 2013-14 statistics. A lot of it is based on extrapolation of figures. Don't ask me how that is done. That is how it is presented. Some big numbers there. If you think that the sort of plateau at 100 ridors is acceptable, hopefully you don't. the numbers behind these are just huge, and that has been sorry. These are the figures for construction. Huge. I mean, that 100 to 1 has got to be a real concern. I mean, the quarry industry is not going to be identical to that, obviously. And I mean, obviously, the big one in construction is always going to be asbestos. However, we do have a lot of silica in quarries, and I don't think that we've really seen the effects that is going to have long term yet. Interestingly, that picture on the right there is of a quarry. It doesn't matter where it is or whose it is, but the reason that it looks a bit misty is because that is crystalline silica hanging in the air that's caught in the camera flash there. So to try and say we don't have a problem in terms of health, I think would be misguided. And there is a long way to go. These were taken this month. You can see down in the bottom corner there, quite happy to run an excavator with a window missing from it. The driver had reported the window missing for a number of weeks, actually. That was the state of the cab in that vehicle, and this was another vehicle on the same site. I could have taken those photographs when I first joined HSE over 20 years ago. So it must sadden all of us that in terms of health, that's how little progress we have made, and we've really got to push on this one. And I will be playing my part in that, as you would expect. So, what can we do about this? Well, I think first and foremost is go out and lead, and develop the leaders within our organisations. There's a huge supply chain there that you can influence. You can influence much smaller employees as well as larger employees. Learning and sharing, there are plenty of opportunities for that. Quinjack is just one of them. Say Quarry is another through incident alerts. And taking the initiative, not standing back and letting someone else do it. Taking the initiative as the leader, getting in there, getting stuck in and doing it. And I don't think we need more and more complex procedures. What we need is action and an outcome. So what are the outcomes that we're expecting? And then lastly, I borrowed that line off Peter Baker, who spoke yesterday, and I think it's absolutely right. Who cares wins? We work in quite a male-dominated machismo industry where we'd like to think who dares wins. Well, perhaps we ought to change that slightly and think, well, actually, no, who cares wins. And with that, I will finish. I don't think there was time built in for questions, but I will be here for most of the day, and I am approachable. You can come and talk to me, and I'd be happy to answer questions. But hopefully I've left you with something to think about, and I'm very grateful for the invitation and the opportunity. Thank you.